Hello students, I am Sanjay Kumar. I am in front of you with the new lecture of electrostatics. In this lecture, we will study about the behavior of conductors when placed in electric field and about capacitors and the grouping of capacitors. Okay, let us start. The first topic is behavior of conductors in electrostatic field. Students, conductors are those substances which can conduct electricity through them. Conductors have large number of free electrons. Those free electrons can move here and there in the interior of the conductor as well as on the surface of conductor. So, let us start. Let us read the first topic and first property. The first property is net electric field intensity in the interior of a conductor is always zero. Net electric field in the interior of a conductor is zero. Suppose we have a conductor and it is placed in external electric field, then it is always true that the net electric field inside that conductor is always zero. Means electric field intensity in the interior of conductor has zero value. Let us prove this. Suppose this suppose electric field intensity inside the conductor is not zero. In that case, the free electrons, suppose that electric field intensity is inside the conductor is in this direction, then free electrons which are there inside the conductor would not be at rest, they would be moving. Because of this electric field, they would experience some electric force, they would experience electric force in this direction, and they would be moving in a particular direction. And if they are moving, then this is not the case of electrostatics. We are studying electrostatics, means charges are at rest. So the charges may be at rest only when the charges are lying on the surface of the conductor, means these free electrons are not moving, these free electrons are lying on the surface of the conductor. So this is possible only when electric field inside the conductor is zero, means there is no electric field inside the conductor. So this proves our first property. Let us move to the next property. So before proving that, let us see in the PPT also. Suppose a metal, this metal is placed in electric field. This is metal and this is placed in external electric field. Then because of free electrons available inside the conductor, the free electrons moves opposite to the electric field and are collected on this surface of the conductor. And opposite to that face, a positive charge is collected. So we can see that there is an reverse electric field generated inside the conductor. There are two types of field. One is external field, that is applied. This one is external field, which is applied by external plates. And there is one electric field inside the metal, that is produced due to induced charge. This E naught is applied field and EP is induced field. These two fields are equal and net electric field inside the metal will be zero. Look, suppose this is E naught is applied field and EP is induced field. We can see that these two fields are in opposite direction, and inside metal they are always equal in magnitude. This induced field and this applied field, they are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. Therefore they cancel in pair and net electric field inside the metal, inside the conductor, always becomes zero. So this is the proof of this property. So let us move to the next property. Next property is that electric field just outside the conductor is perpendicular to the surface of conductor. Suppose we have a conductor, then electric field just outside the conductor, suppose at this point we are finding electric field, then electric field will be always perpendicular to this. So if this is the conductor, then electric field at any point, suppose at this point, this will be perpendicular to this, and suppose at this point electric field is perpendicular. Electric field is always perpendicular to the surface of the conductor. So to prove this, let us suppose that electric field is not perpendicular to the surface. We have assumed here that electric field is not perpendicular, electric field is acting at some angle. So If electric field is not perpendicular, then two components can be resolved of electric field. This electric field vector can be resolved into two components. One component of electric field will be perpendicular to the surface along the normal to the surface, and the other component of electric field will be tangent to the surface of the conductor. So there would be two components of electric field. One is E cos theta, that is parallel to the surface, and other E sin theta, perpendicular to the surface. Suppose that there are two components, then because of this tangential component of electric field, the free charge available at the surface of conductor, this free charge which is available at the surface of the conductor would experience some force tangentially because of this tangential electric field. So this charge will not be at rest. This charge would start moving in the direction of electric field. If it is positive charge, then it would start moving along the direction of electric field, and if it is negative charge, then it would start moving opposite to the direction of electric field. Means it will not be at rest. But we are studying that it is electrostatics, means charge is at rest. It means it is not moving. Not moving means there is no net force tangentially. No net force means there is no component, no tangential component of electric field on the surface. It means electric field is not inclined to the surface. It is always perpendicular to the surface. So in this way we can prove our second property. So let us move to the next property. Next property states that net charge in the interior of a conductor is always zero. This is also a very important topic. Suppose we have a conductor, then we can prove that if you give excess charge to this conductor, suppose you are giving excess charge, you are giving some charge to this conductor, then if you have this conductor and you have given excess charge to this conductor, then that charge would always lie on the surface of conductor. Inside the conductor, the net charge will always be zero. So this is the property. So let us prove. Suppose that charge is lying inside the conductor also. If it is lying inside the conductor, then according to Gauss theorem, net electric field inside the conductor will not be zero. We know that Gauss theorem states that if some charge is lying inside the conductor, then net flux through this surface E dot ds, this is net flux, this will be equal to q divided by epsilon naught. If this q is lying inside the conductor, then this term is not zero. Then if this term is not zero, it means that electric field inside the conductor is not zero. But in the previous property we have proved that electric field inside the conductor is zero. Inside the conductor electric field is zero. It means that if this electric field is zero, it means that inside the conductor charge is also zero. So from the Gauss theorem we can prove that if electric field inside the conductor is zero, then charge inside the conductor is also zero. So this is the proof of our third property. Let us see the proof again. Suppose this we have a conductor and the charge temporarily separated, the total charge of the system is zero. Suppose that total charge of the system is zero, then according to Gauss theorem we know that net flux through the body is equal to E dot ds, and it is equal to q divided by epsilon naught. Q upon epsilon naught means net enclosed charge divided by epsilon naught. We know that inside the conductor electric field is zero, means this left hand side is zero, because electric field is zero, so this left hand side would be zero. If left hand side is zero, then right hand side will definitely will be equal to zero. So this is also zero, means q is equal to zero. So this proves that net charge in the interior of a conductor is always zero. So let us move to the next property. Charge always resides on the surface of the conductor. So this is nothing but it is the other form of our previous property, that if you give some a conductor some charge, then that charge will always move on the surface of the conductor. You gave this excess charge, you are giving this excess charge, and this whole excess charge is getting distributed on the surface. Because in previous property we have proved that net charge inside the conductor will be zero. Inside the conductor charge cannot stay, so it proves that all the charge will move to the surface of the conductor. So this proves our next property. Let us move to the next property. electric potential is constant at the for the entire conductor. It means if this is the conductor, then electric potential inside the conductor is constant everywhere. At any point you see, suppose you are taking at this point, this point, this point, at any point you can see electric potential has same value. So to prove this property, we have a very important relation between potential difference and electric field. Potential difference between any 2 points dV is equal to negative of E dot dr. E is electric field and dr is separation between the 2 points. So suppose that there are 2 points, these are 2 points inside the conductor, these are 2 points, and separation between these 2 points is dr, separation is dr, and the potential difference, suppose the potential difference between these 2 points is dV, potential difference is dV, then according to the previous property we know that inside the conductor electric field is 0, inside the conductor electric field is 0, and using this expression dV is equal to E dot dr, it means that if electric field is 0, then dV is equal to 0, dV is equal to 0, it means potential difference is 0, it means potential has equal value at the 2 points, here and here potential has equal values. So it means everywhere potential has equal value, so entire the conductor is equipotential volume. So this is the property that conductors are equipotential volume. At every point inside the conductor electric potential has same value. So let us move to the next property. Next is surface charge distribution may be different at different points. Suppose we have a conductor of this conical shape, then the surface charge density will have different values at different points. So if the surface is flat one, like the surface is flat here, then here the surface charge density is smaller, and here it is sharp, so here surface charge density has large values. So if it has sharp edges, then surface charge density has larger value, because area is small here, and if area is small then the surface charge density, which is sigma is equal to q divided by area, dq divided by ds area. Then if area is small, this area is small, at sharp edges area is small, then surface charge density would have large value. So let us see what is there. So surface charge density will be minimum at flat surfaces and would be maximum at the sharp edges. So this is very important topic. So these were the properties of conductors when placed in electric field, or the properties of conductor in electrostatic field. So let us move to next very important topic. It is electrical capacitance. Dear students, capacitance is a property of a material to store charge. So in physical terms it is written as the measure of ability of a conductor. It is the ability of a conductor to store charge is known as capacitance or capacity. So it is the ability of something. Suppose you have a metallic plate and it has some ability to store charge, then that ability, measure of that ability is known as capacitance. If something can store larger charge, then it has more capacitance. If something can store smaller charge, then it has smaller capacity or smaller capacitance. So simply it is the property to store charge. We know that the charge stored is always directly proportional to the potential. If we give larger charge, then it would have a larger potential. So Q is directly proportional to potential. And if we remove the sign of proportionality, then we put a constant here, C. Here C is called capacitance or capacity of that capacitor. So Q is equal to CV. It is very important relation between charge stored, capacitance, and the potential of a capacitor. Potential, or you can say potential difference also. Suppose there are two surfaces, then we will take potential difference between the two surfaces. And suppose you have only one surface, then it is the potential of that surface. A capacitor can be a single plate also or single surface also. In that case the other surface is supposed to be at infinity. So single plate or single surface capacitors also exist. In that case, this term V is actually the potential, not the potential difference. And if there are two surfaces, then V is potential difference. And Q is charge stored on capacitor, and C is capacitance or capacity of that capacitor. From here, capacitance of that capacitor will be given by Q divided by V. Q means charge stored on that capacitor and V is potential difference. So we can define the capacitance from this expression. It is the charge stored per unit potential difference. It is the charge stored on capacitor per unit potential difference. This is capacity or capacitance of that capacitor. And SI unit of capacitance is farad. SI unit is farad. SI unit of capacitance is farad. It is denoted by capital F. And the symbol of capacitance or capacitor is this, two parallel lines. This is the symbol of capacitance. And you can define 1 farad capacitor also. 1 farad means if you are able to store 1 coulomb charge and have a potential difference of 1 volt, then the capacitance is 1 farad. So 1 farad is the capacitance of a capacitor which can store 1 coulomb charge with a potential difference of 1 volt. So this is 1 farad capacitance. Actually, 1 farad capacitance is a very large quantity. Practically 1 farad capacitance is not found of any capacitor. So it is the practical unit of capacitance are picofarad, nanofarad and microfarad. Microfarad means 10 raised to power minus 6 farad. Microfarad means 10 raised to power minus 6 farad. Nanofarad means 10 raised to power minus 9 farad. And picofarad means 10 raised to power minus 12 farad. So these are the practical units of capacitances. Capacitance is said to be 1 farad if 1 coulomb charge raises the potential of the conductor by 1 volt. We have already studied this. So next topic is capacitance of an isolated spherical conductor. Suppose we have isolated spherical conductor. We have this spherical shaped conductor and it is isolated. Isolated means no other surface is lying nearby this surface. And if you give some charge to this surface, you are giving this charge Q to this surface and that charge is equally distributed above its surface. Then this is the spherical conductor of radius r and charge Q is there. Then potential of the conductor will be equal to V is equal to Q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r. Actually this charge is shown inside the conductor, but practically the charge always lies on the surface of the conductor. So if it is conductor, then charge cannot remain inside the conductor. It always moves outside and on the surface of the conductor. So this is actually distributed on the surface of the conductor. So potential is Q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r, and C we know that capacitance, that is equal to Q divided by V. So if you divide Q by this V, then you obtain the value of capacitance. So there is very simple calculation. So after putting the value of V here, you will get the value of C, and it comes out to be C is equal to 4 pi epsilon naught r. Here 4 pi epsilon naught is a constant term and it has a value 9 into 10 raised to power 9. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, its value is 9 into 10 raised to power 9, and units are Newton meter square per coulomb square. Newton meter square per coulomb square. This is its unit, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Okay. And r is the radius of the spherical conductor. R is the radius. So from this expression it is clear that capacitance is directly proportional to radius of the spherical conductor. Larger, if the spherical conductor is of larger radius, then it would have larger capacitance. So capacitance depends upon the size of the conductor. If the conductor is larger, then it will be able to store more charge and it would have larger capacitance. So Capacitance means capacity to store charge, and it would, if the area of the conductor is large, if the radius is large, then it would have larger surface area and it would be able to store more charge, and it would have larger capacitance also. So let us move to the next topic. So this expression is applicable for both hollow or solid sphere. It may be a spherical shell, it may be a solid sphere or a hollow sphere. This is equally applicable. If the sphere is in a medium, suppose sphere is not placed in vacuum, it is placed in some medium, then capacitance would be 4 pi epsilon naught epsilon r into radius. Here epsilon r is, here epsilon r, this term is dielectric constant of the medium. We have studied in very first lecture of electrostatic. So this is this epsilon r would be relative permittivity of that medium. It is also known as dielectric constant of that medium. Capacitance of earth is, you know that earth is a conducting sphere. It is not actually a metal, but it can conduct electricity, and radius of the earth is about 6400 kilometer. It is a very large body, and such a large body earth has only 711 microfarad capacitance. So it is very large, earth is very large, and it, even then it has very small capacitance. Its capacitance is 711 microfarad. So from this you can see that how big is the 1 farad capacitance. 1 farad capacitance is very large physical quantity, large unit. So next topic is very important. It is principle of capacitance. Principle means how can we store more and more charge on a capacitor? What can we do to store more and more charge on a capacitor? Okay, so these are the steps. Step 1, suppose you have a plate A, and A is positively charged and B is electrically neutral. Initially you have a plate A and you are given you give charge Q to this plate A. Then you place a neutral charge B close to this plate. Then because of induction, negative charge appear on the inner surface of this plate B, and positive charge appear on the outer surface of this plate B. Plate A is at potential V. When you bring this plate B closer to A, if you are bringing plate B closer to A, then negative charge would appear on the inner surface and positive charge would appear on the outer surface. Because of induction, this is happening. And we are assuming that plate E is also made up of metal, it is a conductor. Now again the potential is V because there is no potential on plate B, and potential A is at potential V, so potential difference is V. Now if you ground the outer surface of plate B, suppose you connect this outer surface of plate B to the ground, then what happens? If you ground this outer surface, if you connect the outer surface of plate B to the ground, then the positive charge which was previously accumulated on the outer surface of plate B now moves to the ground, because this is unbound charge. Look, this charge, positive charge, it is unbound charge because it is experience a repulsion force because of this charge on A. The charge on plate A is positive and charge lying on outside surface of plate B is also positive. So this positive charge is getting repelled by this charge. So this is getting repelled means it is unbound charge. It is not trying to stay here. It is trying to move away from the plate. So if you connect the outer surface to the earth, then whole charge which was lying on the outer surface would move to the ground because it was always trying to move away from plate A. So when it is connected to the ground, the whole charge moves to the ground. So ground is a big conducting body. It can accumulate any amount of charge. So that free charge moves to the ground. Now what happens? Now plate B is at negative potential because it has negative charge only. Now potential decreases. The potential at A is still V, but potential at B is negative. Therefore, the net potential energy of the whole system decreases. Now net potential energy of the whole system decreases. Now it is at less potential as compared to earlier value. So to maintain its energy, the plate A can accumulate more charge. You can give more charge to plate A so that its potential energy increase. So now the net potential of the system decreases due to sum of positive potential on A and negative potential on B. So to increase the potential, you can add more amount of charge to the plate. So this plate charge, so this plate A can accommodate more charge so as to increase its potential energy. So you can give more charge to A, means more charge can be given to plate A. So this is what is desired. We want that more and more charge can be stored on a plate. So this is the principle of the capacitor, parallel plate capacitor. So if we revise this topic, initially you had plate A and you gave positive charge to this plate. Then you bring a neutral plate B close to this. When you bring neutral plate close to this, then negative charge induces on the inner surface and positive charge on the outer surface. Now you connect the outer surface of the plate B to the ground so that the positive charge moves to the ground, and the net charge, negative charge remains on plate B. Now the potential of the whole system decreases, and to increase the potential, more positive charge can be given to plate A, and in this way more and more charge can be stored on the capacitor. So this is the principle of capacitance. Next topic is capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor. In a parallel plate capacitor, we have parallel plates, parallel metallic plates separated by some gap. Suppose these are the plates, and these are of equal area. Suppose this area is A and gap between the plates is small d. So we want to find out the capacitance or capacity of this combination of parallel plates. So let us study. The parallel plate capacitor is arrangement of two parallel conducting plates of equal area separated by air medium or any other insulating medium such as paper, mica, glass, wood, ceramic. So two metallic plates are there, and the gap between the plates may be air or maybe some other dielectric material. It may be paper, mica, glass, wood, at any material can be there. Suppose these are two plates, and one plate is given positive charge so that it has surface charge density plus sigma, and other plate is given negative charge, it has surface charge density minus sigma, and air is there in between the plates. The gap between the plates is small d, and area of each plate is A. So initially we are taking that both plates have equal area, and if the plates are of not equal area, then the area A would be taken of the smaller plate, means the common area would be taken, smaller area. So electric field in between the plates is E, and it is always from plus charge to minus charge, positive to negative charge. This is electric field inside. So potential difference, we have a relation V is equal to E into E dot dr minus E dot dr. So if we are taking magnitudes only, so potential difference V is equal to E into gap. E is electric field. You have already studied this relation. E is equal to minus potential difference divided by gap. So this is potential difference, this is gap. If you cross multiply these two, then potential difference dV is equal to E multiplied by gap. So this is written here, potential difference is equal to electric field multiplied by gap. So electric field, we know that between the between the parallel plates, the electric field is sigma by epsilon naught. This we have already studied in our previous lectures. Electric field between the plates is sigma by epsilon naught. uh, then V is equal to sigma by epsilon naught into D. Okay. Next, V is equal to sigma by epsilon naught into D, and sigma is equal to charge upon area, charge Q divided by area A. So, but C is equal to Q by V. We are going to find out its capacitance, and capacitance is equal to stored charge divided by potential difference. So if you divide charge Q by this potential difference V, then you will get capacitance. So using simple calculations, you divide Q by this term V, you will get the value of C capacitance, and C comes out to be A epsilon naught divided by D. So you simply pause the video and do these calculations yourself, and you will find that capacitance is equal to A epsilon naught divided by D. D is the gap. So epsilon naught is permittivity of vacuum. If the gap between the plates is air or gap is vacuum, then it is epsilon naught. And if it is not air in between the plate, there is some medium, then this epsilon naught is replaced by epsilon naught epsilon r. Suppose this gap is filled by some medium and dielectric constant of that medium is epsilon r, then capacitance would be A epsilon naught epsilon r divided by D. In that case, permittivity of that medium would be taken, and that is epsilon naught epsilon r. Okay. So from this expression we can see that capacitance is directly proportional to area of plate. So if the area of the plate is larger, then it would have larger capacitance, and inversely proportional to the gap between the plates. So if the plates are separated by small distance and the gap is decreased, then the capacitance would increase, and if you are increasing the gap between the plates, then capacitance decreases. Okay. Next topic we have combination of capacitors. Yes, students, from the expression of capacitance, we can see that capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor is given by A epsilon naught by D. So from this expression, it is clear that capacitance is directly proportional to area. So in order to have larger capacitance, in order to have a large amount of capacitance, you would have to have large plates of larger area. So A is required to be very large, and large area of plates is practically not possible, because it would be very difficult to handle large capacitors of large plate area. So in order to obtain large capacitances and by using smaller plates, so we move to the combination of capacitors. We would combine capacitors of smaller capacitors of small capacitances to obtain large capacitance. So let us move to the next topic, combination of capacitors. There are two types of grouping, two types of combinations of capacitor. One is series combination and other is parallel combination. So this one is series combination. Look, if you connect one plate of a capacitor, suppose this is the right plate of a capacitor with the left plate of next capacitor, and a right plate of this capacitor to the left plate of next capacitor. So this kind of grouping is called series grouping or series combination of capacitors. So in we will see that in the series grouping of capacitors, the net capacitance does not increase. Net capacitance is less than the individual capacitances. The net capacitance of this combination will be less than C1, less than C2, less than C3. Okay. Suppose this combination is connected to a battery of potential difference V. So this is the positive terminal of battery. So the charge on this plate would be positive, because the battery would send its electrons to this plate. So negative charge appear on the right plate, and because of this negative charge, positive charge would appear here, and because of positive charge here, negative charge would appear here because of induction. So because of induction, this charge distribution takes place. So and the charges are equal charges are distributed on all the plates, all the capacitors. So charge on this capacitor is q, on this is also q, this is also q. Equal charges are there. Okay. In series combination, charge is same in each capacitor, because you can see that how the charge is moving, actually how the charge is distributed. When you connected this battery to this capacitor, then what actually happened is the free electrons from this left plate, moved towards the positive terminal of battery. Means this plate has free electrons, and those free electrons moved to the positive terminal of battery, and from the positive terminal these electrons moved to the right plate of capacitor C3. So electrons from left plate of C1 are moving towards the to the right plate of capacitor C3 because of this battery. So electrons moved from this plate to this plate. So when this plate attains positive charge because of losing electrons, the left plate of capacitor C1 became positive. So and it acquired plus Q charge, say plus Q charge is acquired by left plate of capacitor C1. Then minus Q charge is obtained by right plate of capacitor C3. Now because of induction, this right plate of capacitor C1 would acquire some charge minus Q because of induction, and because both plates are identical, therefore minus Q equal and opposite charge would be deposited on right plate of capacitor C1. Now as minus Q charge is there on right plate of C1, plus Q charge would be there on left plate of C2, and because of induction, if plus Q charge is there on left plate of C2, then minus Q charge would be there on right plate of capacitor C2, and similarly plus Q charge would be there on left plate of capacitor C3. So we can see that equal charges are there on all plates of capacitor but of different signs. So equal charges are distributed. Now the charges are equal but capacities are different, then potential differences between the plates of each capacitor would be different, because we have this relation V is equal to Q by C. We have Q same for all capacitance, Q is same for all capacitor, and C are different for each capacitors. C is C1 for first capacitor, C2 for second capacitor, and C3 for third capacitor. Q charges are same but capacities are different, so potential differences would be different. So if V1 is potential difference across this first plate, first capacitor, V2 is potential difference here, and V3 is potential difference here, then total potential difference would be V1 plus V2 plus V3. So put total potential difference V is equal to V1 plus V2 plus V3, but we know that V is equal to Q by C. So total potential difference V is equal to Q by C. V1 means potential difference across this capacitor V1 would be equal to Q by C1, V2 would be Q by C2, V3 would be Q by C3, and this way if we put all the values in this parent equation, then we get Q by C is equal to Q by C1 plus Q by C2 plus Q by C3. Q is common among in the numerator, so it cancel. Therefore 1 by C is equal to 1 by C1 plus 1 by C2 plus 1 by C3. So this is C is effective capacitance of this combination. C is effective capacitance, and this is equal to 1 by C1 plus 1 by C2 plus 1 by C3. So in this way we can find out the equivalent capacitance of three capacitors when connected in series. So this is applicable for more number of capacitors also. If there are 4 capacitors in series, then one more term would be there. It would be 1 plus 1 by C4. If 5 capacitors are there, then it would be 1 by C4 plus 1 by C5. In this way, it may be any number of capacitors. So in using this expression, we can find equivalent capacitance of all capacitors connected in series. So let us move to the next combination. It is parallel combination of capacitors. Suppose now we connect the capacitors in this way. We have these capacitors, and we connect these plates in this way that one plate of each capacitor are connected together, and the remaining plate of each capacitors are connected together, and they are connected to a battery. Then this kind of combination would be parallel combination. In that case, potential differences across all capacitors would be equal. If the total potential difference is V, then potential difference across C1 would be V, C2 would be V, and C3 would be V. So equal potential difference would be there across all capacitors. So why is this happening? suppose the potential at this point is V, then the potential at this plate is V, because the electrons from all plates move towards the battery. Electrons from all left plates of all the capacitors move towards the battery, and these electrons move towards the right terminal of right plate of each capacitor. So this transfer of electron continues till the potential difference across each capacitor become equal, because suppose that potential difference across the plates of C1 and C2 are not equal. Suppose here the potential difference is V1, then and here the potential difference is V2, means they are at different potentials. If they are at different potential, then there would be some potential difference, and if there is potential difference, then charge cannot stay at rest. Charge electrons would be moving because of this potential difference, and charge cannot be at rest, charge cannot be static. So if the charge is static and it has attained equilibrium, it means that there is no potential difference across the capacitors. It means all capacitors have acquired equal potential difference. Only then the charge can be at equilibrium. Charge can be in equilibrium in static condition. So the potential difference across all plates are equal. Now the potential differences are V. If V are same and C capacitances are different, then definitely there would be different charges, because we know that uh, Q is equal to C upon V. Q is equal to C by V. So if V are same and C are different, then charges would be different. So charge on first plate would be Q1 is equal to C1 V1, Q is equal to CV, Q is equal to CV. V are same, C are different. So Q into C into V would be definitely different. For this plate, the charge is Q1 is equal to C1V. For next capacitor, the charge would be equal to Q2 is equal to C2V, because V are same and C are different. So Q2 different charges are there on each capacitor. So if Q1, Q2, Q3 are charges, then total charge on whole combination is equal to Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3, and if we replace Q by CV, then CV is equal to C1V plus C2V plus C3V. CV is equal to C1V plus C2V plus C3V. Then C is equal to C1 plus C2 plus C3. So in this way we can find equivalent capacitance of the parallel combination of three capacitors. So in this expression we can see that the capacitances are added algebraically. Capacitances are added algebraically. Therefore, if you connect the capacitors in parallel, then their capacitances get added and we get larger capacitance. So if you have many capacitors of small capacitances and you want to obtain large capacitance, then you connect those capacitors in parallel to each other. If you connect those in parallel, then total capacitance would be equal to algebraic sum of different capacitances. Okay. Yes students, I am asking a very simple question here. Suppose you have three capacitors of capacitances 3 microfarad each. You have three identical capacitors of capacitances 3 microfarad each. Then what would be the equivalent capacitance if you connect them in series, and what would be the equivalent capacitance if you connect them in parallel? So this is a question for you. You stop the video and solve this question and reply me. So this is a very simple question. So let us move to the next topic. Okay, next topic is energy stored in capacitor. Okay students, we will study this topic in our next lecture. So till then, stay home, stay safe. Thank you very much.